Ask Jung is an educational and philosophical AI simulation podcast. The responses are generated based on Carl Jung's collective works and analytical psychology framework. Jung. This one's strange because it happens at the best moments, not the worst. Life is actually going well, and right in the middle of that good feeling, a quiet thought shows up. Something bad is about to happen. Enjoy it while it lasts. It's not based on anything real, no bad news, no warning sign, just a feeling. Why does happiness sometimes come with its own built-in dread?
Because for a lot of people, happiness was never fully safe to trust. And when something feels good but unsafe to trust, the mind starts bracing for the moment it ends before it's even close to ending.
So we're basically pre-grieving something that hasn't happened yet.
That's a good way to put it. Let's look at why the mind does that.
Welcome back to Ask Jung. Every episode, a real emotional question, answered by Carl Jung. No lecture hall, no couch, just an honest back and forth. Today's question is one a lot of genuinely happy people quietly deal with. Why do we feel like something bad is coming, even when everything is actually fine? Jung, you said happiness wasn't always safe to trust. What do you mean by that?
If someone grew up in an environment where good moments were often followed by disruption, a calm evening interrupted by an argument, a happy occasion undercut by criticism, their mind learned an association. Good feelings became a warning sign, not a relief. Not because good feelings are inherently dangerous, but because in their history, good feelings often came right before something painful. So years later, even in a completely safe, stable life, that old association can still fire. The joy triggers the alarm simply out of habit.
So the dread isn't really predicting the future, it's remembering the past.
Precisely. It feels like intuition. Most of the time, it's memory wearing intuition's clothing.
Why would the mind do this to us, though? It doesn't feel helpful, it just ruins good moments.
It feels unhelpful, but from the mind's point of view, it's actually protective. If you brace yourself for bad news and bad news arrives, it hurts less because you were already halfway prepared. If you fully relax into joy and something bad does happen, it feels like a much harder fall. So bracing is really an attempt at control. It trades a smaller, constant discomfort now for the hope of a smaller shock later. The problem is, most of the time, nothing bad happens at all, and the bracing just quietly taxes every good moment for no reason.
So it's a defense against a blow that usually never lands.
Usually, yes. And even when something difficult does eventually happen, bracing rarely softens it as much as people hope. Mostly, it just steals the good moments that came before it.
Is there something deeper going on too? This feels bigger than just old memories firing.
There is, and it's one of my favorite ideas to explain. I call it Enantiodromia, the tendency of the psyche to swing toward its opposite when something reaches an extreme. When someone experiences an intense high, part of the psyche instinctively starts reaching for balance, and balance can register as pulling toward the opposite feeling. This isn't punishment, and it isn't the universe correcting you. It's simply how a mind that's used to a certain emotional range behaves when it's stretched further than usual. Intense joy can feel unfamiliar in the same way intense grief does, and the mind reaches to bring itself back toward the middle.
So the dread might just be the psyche's way of regulating something that feels too intense to sit in fully.
Often exactly that, which is actually good news because it means the dread isn't a warning about your circumstances. It's a comment on how unfamiliar the intensity of the joy feels.
Okay, practical step. Someone's having a genuinely good day, and that dread shows up anyway. What do they actually do with it?
First, name it without believing it automatically. Say to yourself, this is the bracing feeling, not a prediction. That distinction matters more than people expect because it stops you from treating a feeling as if it were information about the future.
And then?
Then, instead of pulling back from the joy to protect yourself, try staying in it a little longer than feels comfortable. Notice one specific detail of the good moment, a sound, a feeling in your body, something concrete. That keeps you anchored in what's actually happening instead of in what your mind is bracing for.
And if the dread doesn't fully go away?
It doesn't have to disappear completely for this to work. You can feel the bracing and still choose to enjoy the moment anyway. Over time, as good things keep not being followed by disaster, that old association weakens. It just takes repeated evidence, not one single decision.
So, to bring this together, that feeling of dread inside a good moment usually isn't a warning about what's coming. It's often an old habit of bracing for pain, and sometimes just the psyche adjusting to something that feels more intense than it's used to. The fix isn't ignoring the feeling, it's not mistaking it for a fact. Jung, one last thought before we close?
Joy doesn't need your permission to be safe. It just needs enough repetition before your nervous system believes it.
That's a good place to leave it. If you know someone who can't fully relax into good news without waiting for the other shoe to drop, send this to them. It might be exactly what they needed to hear today. Next episode, another real question. Until then, take care of yourself.